Brown 45! Brown 45! Hot, 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 hot!
You are listening to Any Given Sunday, Australia.
Yes, hello and welcome to the Any Given Sunday Australia podcast, the number one podcast in at least 3 households, 1 studio, American Football Australia head office, NFL Australia head office, worldwide. Joining us in his newly renovated West Wing, Danny at Danny Webb, AGSAU. How are you, mate?
I'm doing a lot better than my birds.
Yes, and my Packers, you are right. We don't need to go back. We did talk about that the other day. We've moved on. We're on to week 5. Week 5. Fucking week 5, mate. We are a third of the way through the season. It is absolutely flying. Thanks to those that have just commented on the YouTube and noticed my brand new shirt. It is a nice little reminder to get on our store, get yourself some fresh fits, fresh jumpers, fresh shirts. This is the Chargers Any Given Sunday shirt. I'll make sure you can see it. There's a nice little bit of yellow in there. It looks really nice, feels really good. Get all over it, Danny. Make sure you're ready for week 6 with a fresh set of Any Given Sunday gear, mate. But we've just wrapped up week 5 with 2 Monday night games. I'm pretty sure you watched most of both of them. One of them I nearly fell asleep watching, and the other one was an absolute thriller. The first one was the Titans at the Dolphins. The Titans getting the job done 31-12. Mason Rudolph actually coming on to get the job done and getting his first win, with Will Levis going off with an injured shoulder. I'm not sure how bad it was. He was on the sideline the whole game. Looked like he was ready to come back on, but Mason was getting the job done and they didn't put him back in. Tony Pollard really led with the O-line. He dominated. Him and I think it's Tate Spears. Just throwing that out there. It's definitely Spears, Tate, I'm guessing. They really dominated over the Dolphins, and Huntley coming in for his first game just couldn't quite get the job done. Finished late with a bit of a flurry, but only threw for about 85, 86 yards. So wasn't a great day, especially with all of the weapons that he does have in the Dolphins. But he has already been named for this week to be the starter. So they're sticking with him for the moment. But it was a real snore fest. I don't even want your comments on it, mate, because it was a shit game. I won't lie to you. The other game, it was that good that you sent me a message that Goff should be MVP favourite. That's how happy you were with the game. Goff completing 100% of his passes, 18 from 18, to lead the Lions 42 over the Seahawks 29. That was a game that was an absolute cracker, mate, and I do want your opinion on how that one went.
Yeah, so Goff getting 100% completion. He went 18 from 18. He set a record for it. Take a seat at the MVP table, my friend. You have earned it. He took down that undefeated Seahawks, and to be fair, the Seahawks defense, I know they were injury depleted, but they could not stop the Lions to save them, and that was their downfall. I think if the Seahawks maybe potentially had another quarter, they were fighting back, they were trying, but every time the Lions got the ball, they looked unstoppable.
Yeah.
Also, Goff and Brown both threw a touchdown pass to one another. So they're the 8th duo in the league to ever do it.
Yeah, right. I did see. It was almost a bit of it was a Philly special or Philly special, that kind of iteration that they brought in, and yeah, it was Goff was the first ever quarterback to have. It was something like 100% throwing touchdown and catching a touchdown in the same game. It was ridiculous. And Geno and the Seahawks, they did look. They were right there, right until the very end. Like, they weren't disgraced in this game at all. Did fall away at the end. A couple of late penalties and stuff hurt them. But I reckon they're now 3-1. They don't leave that game going, you know what, we're out of this. Like, they leave that thinking we are right up in this season in our eyeballs. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to spit it out.
You're getting there, but yes, no, the Seahawks, even with that effort, have nothing to be ashamed about. The Lions were just a better team on the day. They went out in those black uniforms. I haven't worn them in like 20 years, and a dark blue helmet. They looked elite.
Look crisp, isn't it?
They look good. They look strong. So I think if you're a Seahawks fan, like, don't be disheartened by this by any means. You're still in with a very good fighting chance.
Up to their eyeballs in it is what I was trying to get out. Before we go on to the little bit of an injury speculation news that we do have. I have someone that's meant to be in bed but wanted to come and say hello. He's got his Packers gear on. He knows that Jordan Love will be back this week, so don't stress, mate. You can go to bed and you'll be cherry ripe. The little bit of injury news, and it's more speculation, and you kind of told me that he's had it for a long time, which kind of I didn't know. CMC with his Achilles tendonitis. It's not just one leg, mate.
Yeah, so it's actually come out and said because anyone who does get Achilles tendonitis tends to favours the other leg, and then lo and behold gets tendonitis in the right leg. So I think they originally came out that it was his left leg. Now it's said that it's his right. But Kyle Shanahan's actually come out and said he's had it throughout his whole career, and he's just managed to manage it and stay on top of it. I think there's a little bit of media smoke and mirrors about this one. It could be terrible. Don't get me wrong. If it is as bad as the media is making it out to be. He also said in game one when he could have actually played, he said if this was the playoffs, I'd be playing. I'd be suiting up and playing. So I think they're resting him. And Mason's just gone out and balled out anyway, getting 100 yards and a touchdown essentially every game. There's no need to rush him back. He's on IR. I wouldn't be surprised, though, just if he's come back straight after his stint on IR.
Didn't he go to Germany or something? Did I read that?
Yeah, he's gone to go see some German doctors to get some clarification on the severity of it.
Okay. Yeah, but like you said, it's week 5. They're not going to be rushing him back into the lineup, Let's get him right. Let's do a bit of Patrick Mahomes kind of stuff. Let's get to the playoffs and then bring in a real fresh CMC, which is going to be dangerous for all the teams around.
Well, now
for other teams.
Now they've got the two-headed monster now because they've got CMC and they've got Mason, who's essentially doing what CMC was doing anyway. So any time, anywhere, once he's back, the 49ers can rush on you.
Especially, you can put CMC out wide, keep Jordan Mason at the back. CMC becomes another wide receiver pretty much, but he's an absolute beast that'll run over everyone. Moving into our next story, that's, for those that want to be dangerous going into playoffs time, there could be another player that's on the market and has actually come out and said that I want to be traded, and it's Davante Adams, which was a bit of a surprise. But then when you think about it, not as surprising for someone who hasn't had, this time in Green Bay, didn't have that ultimate success that he wanted. Thought he was going to get it in Vegas, stupidly. Hasn't. And he's currently sitting out with a bit of a string. He'll be out. I don't know if he went on to IR, but he'll be out for the next 3 or 4 weeks. But yeah, come out this morning that Adam Schefter was saying that he's actually come out and said, I want to be traded, which makes me think he might be willing to take a little bit of a pay cut depending where he goes. His contract does take a big leap next year, going from the base of 16.9 up to 35.7, which is huge. But none of it's guaranteed. So the Raiders might have come out and, depending where they come or where they finish this year, could be considering cutting him and try and, limit that cap hit that they might have taken. But if a trade is to happen, obviously, then you think most of that will be offloaded to that team. So, and then the Raiders have come out and said, we'll contemplate anything that, we're going to need at least a second-round pick for him. He is on the older side, but he's still elite, especially for a team that's, going to be contending. So a second-round pick, and they said other compensations, which I reckon that's obviously the money coming into it, Danny Boy. You've deep dived into this a hell of a lot more than I have. I picked one team and one team only, and that he was going to come back and be a Green Bay man. So I'm sure I can pony up a couple of dollars. I'll take it out of your purse and send it over to the Packers and make sure that they can get him. But you've deep dived into this a hell of a lot more than me, mate. So where's he going to go?
So there's a lot of options, and I did an unbelievable amount of research on this. Everyone is talking throughout the media that he's going straight back to the Jets. Let's reunite him with Aaron Rodgers. The issue I have with this is that the Jets already have 3 wideouts in Wilson, Williams, and Lazard. And 2025 is a contractual nightmare for the Jets. Wilson will want all that JJ money. Sauce Gardner's and Breece Hall, both due for a contract extension. And Adams would have to be willing to take a huge, not just a small pay cut, a huge pay cut if you want to play for the Jets. Also, the Jets can't even get a deal done with Reddick and would most likely have to trade him if they were going to sign Adams in the first place. So they don't even have the money, the cap space, or the wide receiver room for him. If they're doing that, they're probably looking at actually dropping Lazard out of that start, which Lazard arguably has won them games this year.
Yeah.
Another team on the cards, which we've spoken about all year, about them not having a wide receiver one, is the Bills. So the Bills just got rid of Stephon Diggs. And apart from getting absolutely stomped on by the Ravens recently, it seemed to be working really well. Josh Allen's up there as MVP favorite number one. And if anything, the Bills are probably after a younger wide receiver and kind of do what the Chiefs have done and not have a wide receiver one and have so many options for Josh Allen to pass to. And it's been working for him. So I can't see him going on the Bills. Steelers. Now, the Steelers are interesting. So they missed out on IU. Mind you, he was 26. Adams would be teamed up nicely, sitting next to Pickens. The Steelers are spending significantly less money on QBs this season and could actually afford him. One of the teams that could afford him. Although, would Adams want to go to the Steelers? He's released a list of all the teams he wanted to go to. We know that Arthur Smith is a heavy run offense sort of guy and normally favors like quite a short game. You'd see him, Arthur Smith would a QB rather pass to a second or third string tight end than actually hit a long ball. Justin Fields has hit a couple this year, but it's probably not the spot for him. Another one we've spoken about a lot is the Ravens. Ravens love to sign older receivers. We saw it with OBJ last year. Would be an incredible pairing, I think, next to Flowers. But I think the Ravens would much rather sign him as a free agent than trade for him. We've seen this in the past with the Ravens. They're not a big trade-heavy team. If they can sign him in the offseason, let's say the Raiders do cut him, I think next year would be the time that they'll go after him. But with Adams wanting out now, that kind of rules out the Ravens. Another one, the Cowboys. Cowboys have started 2-2. Is definitely not where they want to be. They just signed Dak to a massive deal, and essentially all he's got in the wide receiver room is CeeDee Lamb. So it'll take a huge amount of pressure off him. My issue here is Lamb, Dak, and Micah Parsons are set to make $120 million next year alone, combined salaries. So realistically, the Dallas probably need more help running the ball. So trading for a wide receiver in Adams would be a very Dallas thing to do. So I'm not ruling this one out because who knows what Jerry Jones is going to do. And here we have your Packers, mate. So they'll bring back a franchise favorite. Watson's out currently with a high ankle sprain. Adams would take the load off the remaining receivers. But Packers are most likely happy with having their young core that they've got. They've unintentionally had the youngest team in the league at the moment, and it's working for him. It gives Loves plenty of targets rather than him just having to focus on a wide receiver one who's going to want the ball. So I don't think it's a good fit for them. Then we've got the Rams. The Rams are desperate. They love also trading for a star. We've seen it happen. We've seen it work, and they've won Super Bowls from doing it before. Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, both out indefinitely. The Rams can actually go out. The Rams can actually get out of the Cup deal at the end of this year. Wouldn't be surprising, consider how injury prone he has been these last few years. So Adams would be a perfect replacement for him. But the issue is they've only got a $3.5 million in cap space at the moment. Do you think the Raiders are going to take a $13 million hit? I don't think so. They'd have to eat up so much of that contract. And I think it's just too much in return. Now, the Chiefs, I texted you about this early. The Chiefs are in desperate need for any wide receiver at this point because all Mahomes' options right now is Xavier and Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce did show up last week, which is great.
Yeah, correct.
Proved me wrong, which is all good. But the Chiefs actually had the best wide receiver in the league at the time in Tyreek Hill and traded him away because they couldn't get past the Bengals because the Bengals double-teamed Kelce and they double-teamed Hill. And then that was it. They took away every single option away from the Chiefs. So they got rid of that and they've built this young core wide receiver, similar to what I was saying with the Packers, and just gives Mahomes way more options. And it's working for them. They've won 2 Super Bowls since then. So I don't think the Chiefs are the one. Now, this one might surprise you and everyone else listening. This is my team that makes the most amount of sense. It's the Commanders.
Mm.
And I'll tell you why.
Yeah, go on.
Jaden Daniels is looking like an instant superstar. He's 3-1. The first game was a bit hit and miss, but ever since then, he's kind of found his stride. And he's doing all that, passing to Zacchaeus, Brown, and McLaurin. Washington could easily justify adding another veteran wide receiver into the mix, especially as Daniels will be on a rookie contract through till 2027. Just like what the Texans did this offseason. They signed Diggs to pair up with CJ Stroud, and look how well it's working for them. This ownership group wants to bring all the fans back, and I think it's such a smart move to show Daniels that they're all in and they believe in him. And they believe in him right from the get-go. The Commanders have the 7th easiest schedule and already have a 62% chance of making the playoffs. Adams to the Commanders would be the best fit for all parties.
Holy shit, mate! I know you said you were you were busy when you went off grid just to deep dive into this, but you've sold it to me. It's done. He's going to the Packers. I love it. That's great. So, the Commanders does sound like the biggest fit, but I do like one comment that you wrote in there that this is a very Jerry Jones thing to do, very Dallas thing to do. They don't need help at wide receiver, so let's go get and pay a lot of money for a wide receiver. But yeah, Commanders, it's a very interesting, like you said. What's that young wide receiver's name? Can you just give me his whole name for me?
Zacchaeus.
Yeah, what's his first name? Is it Olamide or Olamide? Olamide.
Yeah, it's Zacchaeus.
Zacchaeus. That's a great name. I love him already. I didn't know he existed. I love him instantly.
But that's the thing.
And Jaden Daniels, like you said, the ultimate, like really getting behind him and showing him that they believe in him, giving him this kind of weapon, wouldn't it not?
I could have asked you who the wide receiver room was in the Commanders, and I doubt you could have named more than one.
I would have given you Terry McLaurin. That would have been it.
Yeah. So yeah,
scary Terry. He's a gun, but I could not give you any more.
Exactly. So I think it's such a good fit, and it just makes sense for the Commanders to go out and do this. And this ownership with Harris coming into this, all he wants to do now is get over the Dan Snyder years. The best way to do that, bring in Adams, bring in a franchise guy, and have a good run at these playoffs.
Yeah, especially while they're leading the NFC East, and the fans are going to get around this. Like Adams, if Adams come, it'll be Adams and Daniels will be the two top selling jerseys. Like they'll make their money back tomorrow. So I could see this definitely, and I think he'd be pretty happy going to such an exciting such an exciting young QB as well. Like he could go for a couple of years. Someone that's already showing that 80-90% he's passing at the moment. Like he can hit him and they can start doing some things and actually catching balls, which would be more than what he's been doing down in Vegas.
And what a good way for Daniels to show off his talent as well by having someone like Adams to actually pass to, because he'll be able to hit him on those long balls. I think Daniels has been breaking records in his first 4 games with his completion rate already.
Yeah, 83% already.
Let's see what he can do when he can pass to one of the best. Yes, we've said it, and I've harped on about it this whole time. Adams is on the wrong side of 30, and he is that little bit older. But take a chance on him. Even if you just take a chance on him just for the end of this season. We've seen it done before, and we've seen it work. We've seen teams get to the Super Bowl when they potentially might not have been able to before. I think the Commanders are silly not to take this chance.
Well, it'll be interesting. He's out for the next couple with a hamstring, but definitely one to keep our eyes on over the next few weeks. Something that we do have to keep our eyes on this weekend, and just remember that daylight savings, especially for the East Coast, is starting. It's not ending, it's starting. So our 3 a.m. starts are gone, Danny boy. We now have 4 a.m. starts, which is a great thing, except for this weekend we actually have a 12:30 a.m. start because it is the beginning of the international swing. The Vikings taking on the Jets at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. That's in London. You're the Englishman. Yeah, that's in London?
Yes.
Grouse. I did know that. So we've got the London game this week. Huge part. I know the NFL Australia, Charlotte, she's actually over for that game. So we've got our own little taste over there, which is huge. We might have to get her on and listen to how it actually was. But yeah, so 12:30 start this weekend, the international swing, 4 a.m. for all the other early starts, which is huge. But also means that the middle games 7:25, like perfect. None of these 5 a.m. wake ups. And miss the first game, watch the second game. A couple of games that we are going to talk about. I've picked them. This first game, the NFC South battle. It's the Friday game for us. It's a huge game, I think. It's definitely the game that stood out for me this week when you look at the slate that we've got. The 3-1 Bucks at the 2-2 Falcons. The Falcons are favourite by 1.5. I'm presuming that's only purely because they are at home. 54% of the money is actually on the Falcons at $1.78 to get the job done. So I don't hate the Bucks at just over $2 to get the job done here because both teams are coming off good wins after bad losses. The Bucks getting beaten. Their only loss so far was to the Broncos, which stinks. And the completely went blank then. The Falcons, good win against the Saints after losing to the Mahomes and the Chiefs late in that game where they could have really won and could have been 3-1. Yeah, Danny, what are your thoughts? Like looking at some of the stats, it's pretty close across the board, passing, rushing and receiving. But my thoughts, looking at across both teams, pretty close. Bijan Robinson is the one that stands out for me as the guy that could break this game wide open.
Yeah, Bijan probably hasn't had as much of an impact lately as what he's capable of. So he's definitely one to keep an eye on throughout this game. I think Kirk is settling in more and more and really kind of finding his feet. And the Bucks absolutely destroyed the Eagles last week. And as you're saying, the only loss that the Bucks have actually had is to the Broncos. And then apart from that, they haven't looked like they've played any form of losing football. It's not like the games have necessarily really been close. They've been like absolutely pouncing on teams. I think this is going to be a great battle, and hopefully it's a nice, high-scoring, tight game that we can cheer on the whole way.
Yeah, we like to see it go down. I like a nice 1.5 line, just to keep it nice and close. I like the Bucks. I reckon they travel well. Going away is a good, solid unit. Baker Mayfield, we've spoken about him before, being that number one now, coming out, having the confidence that it's his team and they're going to move forward, and the weapons. Godwin has been his main target this year, but he's got like Mike Evans is an absolute jet. He had 8 or 9 receptions last week, so I like the Bucks away from home, especially you're going to give them 1.5. I'll take that every day of the week. What are you going to put your money where your mouth is with this one?
Yeah, mate. To be honest, Atlanta haven't proved themselves enough to me yet, where the Bucks have. So yes, they're 3-1 versus 2-2. It's going to be a massive shift if they go 4-1, heading towards that middle half of the season. So yeah, money's on the Bucks.
Smart one. And this next game, I wanted to talk about purely because we've already spoken about it a little bit, but the Commanders are so exciting to talk about. So the 3-1 Commanders at home against the 1-3 Browns, and it's also, I think, the end of the Browns. If they lose this 1-4, they are not turning it around. 1-3, there's still a chance. 1-4, game over. And I can't see them getting the job done. And 64% of the people agree with us. They've got a 3.5 point line to start with. The Commanders, they are favourites. 64% of the people at $1.58 are getting on Washington as well. Could Washington be 4-1 and lead the NFC East, your NFC East, a third of the way through the season, mate?
100% they can. And I have just spoken so highly about the Commanders. And Jaden Daniels
rolls in nicely, doesn't it?
and how well he's done. We the other day we threw on the game the Commanders and the Cardinals, and that on paper, realistically, you look at it, that should have been a tight, close-fought battle. The Commanders destroyed him. Jaden Daniels is he's playing out there like he's in his 5th year. He's playing out there like how Love came out in his rookie season. But Jaden Daniels didn't sit behind Aaron Rodgers for 4 years.
Yeah.
I think one of the best things that has come out of all of this is that Shannon Sharp actually came out and said, well, the Commanders got their QB and the Bears just got a diva. And I love that. I love that quote because he's come out and he has played. And I said all throughout preseason that if it wasn't for the hype around Caleb Williams, he would have been the man. And he's gone out there and proved me right. Nothing more than I like than getting proved right.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially by the Commanders, which doesn't happen very often at all. And we're probably not giving it as much credit as the fact that the Commanders are in your division and you're really getting around it. So that's huge. That is huge by you. Well done. You always give me credit when I hype up the Vikings or something. So well done to you. I think it's a huge stat. The Commanders are the third highest scoring offense, and they're only a touchdown away from being the highest scoring offense. So they're right behind. I think it's the Saints and the Bills, the only two ahead of them. Bills by a point, the Saints by 6 points. So one more touchdown, and they're the highest scoring offense. And they're taking on the Browns, who the Commanders also have a pretty bad scoring against defense, but the Browns are the sixth worst. So it's the likes of the guys that are zero, like the Jags and stuff like that, the Panthers. These guys are getting scored heavily against. The Browns are right up there with the sixth worst scoring defense. So they're not stopping teams from getting in, and it just sounds like a lot like last week's game. Like you said, the Commanders putting 35, 40 plus up against these Browns, I reckon. And one stat that really stood out for me against this in the passing, the QB. So Daniels has gone 87 from 106 for 897 yards. It's not we've got a couple of people who are in the 1,000 yards already, but Deshaun Watson has thrown, 40 more passes. He's 91 of 148, and he's 170 yards less. 170. He's only thrown for 727 yards. Yes, he's got more touchdowns. He's got the 4 touchdowns. Daniels has done it on his feet. He's got 2 or 3 on his feet as well. But thrown more interceptions, 3 interceptions as well. So he's just, but what that tells me, Danny boy, yes, he's throwing at 83%, but he's also throwing it down the field. It's nearly 10 yards a pass. So that's huge in this league. Anywhere between 5 and 7, 5 and 8 yards per pass. Sweet, sounds good. Like you are hitting some good yardage. 10 yards a pass. This is absolutely phenomenal from a first year QB.
Mate, he's doing so well. And I reckon it's time for the Browns to move on for Deshaun Watson.
Call it. Done. Get rid of him. He is... I don't know what... Even if they have to pay it, he's so bad.
He's obviously... There's so much other stuff that's going on outside of football as well for him, which would be taking so much of his focus away. But he is not the QB that he used to be. And the Browns, you've tried... You paid him too much money. It's over. Let it go. Move on. And I reckon if they go 1-4, they probably will.
Yeah, this week or at the end of the season?
Probably paying him too much to get rid of him this week. They should, but I don't know if they will.
The only good thing coming out of the Browns is Nick Chubb. He's back. He's back running. So he's come back from that knee injury, that gruesome knee injury from last year. So I'm not sure it's this week, but over the next few weeks, we could see Nick Chubb coming back, which would be huge for that organisation because they need something to look forward to. And huge for whoever the next QB is because he will be in the backfield for them. Last week, we missed this. It was our fault, my fault especially. We didn't put up an Any Given Sunday bet of the week. It is your week. We are still 1-1. Do you have a little bit of juice for us in a 1-on-1, mono underdog story kind of win?
Yeah, my Any Given Sunday pick this week is the Colts over the Jags. So they're actually playing in Jacksonville. So the Jags are the favourites. I guess they're assuming they're not going to go 0-5. With the way that they've started, the Colts lost Anthony Richardson in the first quarter of the last game, but he's already come out and said that he's probably willing to play. But even if he doesn't and Joe Flacco goes out there, I think with the way the Jags are playing, they're going to get this done. So it's at $2.25. It's my Any Given Sunday pick of the week.
You can find that on our feed, Any Given Sunday AU podcast. What you'll also find is our bet for this Friday's game. We've just talked about it. We've said it's going to be high scoring. We've said there's going to be plenty of yards out there, just like the Detroit and Seattle game where we got a big W paying $7.75. This game, we've gone in. We've just said it's going to be high scoring. Last time these two played, it was over 50. So I reckon we're going to put in there over 40. 39.5 we're going to put in there. You liked and I liked. The boys have been throwing it around. Baker Mayfield for 360 against you boys last week. So we're going to put in for 225. Kirk Cousins for over 200. And you're the receptions man. Who are we going to have for receptions out there, mate? I love this. You've really swung me for this one. So who we got for receptions?
So Mike Evans is in the previous game, especially against the Eagles. I think he had 9 receptions. So I think we just throw him in there for 5. He should easily be able to get that done. Baker Mayfield's now starting to find him. Godwin was his target at the start. He's transitioning towards Mike Evans, which is great. I think he's going to keep on doing that throughout the rest of the season. So easy, he's going to hit his 5. And then the other one, a little sneaky one, which has happened 4 out of the past 5 games, and he only missed this by 1 mark, is actually Bijan Robinson for the Falcons. I'm putting him into 3 receptions. If he's hit that 4 out of 5 games, the Falcons are probably going to need everything they can get to get past these Bucs and get past this Bucs defense. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets targeted. Definitely more than 3 times, but let's keep it safe at 3 receptions.
And those 5 legs, getting a $6.25 is nice and juicy. But I agree with that one. Kirk Cousins just likes little dinky passes out to the side to his running backs. So Robinson for 3+ is an absolute guaranteed. I love it. Huge weekend for both teams, mate. Good luck to your Eagles. We need to bounce back. Packers, bad luck. My Packers, we're playing against the Rams, so I have to be pretty confident that we're going to get the job done there. That is a good point. There's buys this week, which suck. But that's all right. Enjoy the weekend, mate.
Let's go. Go Pack, go, I guess.
Yes.